Leo sat on the edge of the Riverside Bakery's window seat, knees pulled up to his chest, watching the water glint in the afternoon sun. The laughter of children outside sounded distant, like it belonged to another world. Since his mother had died, he hadn't spoken a single word. Doctors, therapists, specialists. His father had spent millions trying to reach him, but nothing worked. The house was full of silence, and Leo carried it with him like a heavy coat, one that no one could remove. Inside the bakery, the smell of fresh bread and roasted coffee filled the air. Sophia wiped down the counter, humming softly, her eyes catching the boy by the window. She had worked in small cafes all her life, and she had a way of noticing people without staring, of seeing what they needed before they could ask. Leo's stillness didn't scare her. Something about him felt like a question waiting to be answered. "Hey," she said gently, leaning on the counter. "Do you want to try the chocolate croissant? It's my favorite." Leo didn't move. He didn't even glance her way. But Sophia didn't step back. Instead, she grabbed a napkin, tore it into little squares, and set them on the table. "I made too many. You can have them if you like." He looked at the napkin squares for a long moment, then at her. His lips twitched, a tiny, almost imperceptible motion, but enough for Sophia to smile. She walked over and sat across from him, careful not to crowd him. "My name's Sophia," she said softly. "I like baking, and I like rivers. And I like quiet people, too. You can be as quiet as you want." Leo tilted his head slightly, studying her, like he was deciding if she could be trusted. Then very slowly he whispered, "Play with me." Sophia felt a catch in her chest. That single phrase, barely more than a breath, was the first sound he'd made since the day his mother had died. She nodded. "Of course. Let's play." From that moment, Sophia's afternoons became intertwined with Leo's silence. She didn't push words. She built little games from simple things: stacking cups, rolling balls, drawing shapes and flour on the counter. She let him set the pace. Sometimes he spoke. Sometimes he only pointed or gestured. But the trust grew like sunlight warming frost. Javier Moreno, Leo's father, watched from a distance, initially skeptical. He was used to control, to solutions measured in numbers and efficiency. But here, no therapy could be scheduled. No gadget could unlock the boy. Sophia's approach was quiet, almost ordinary, and yet it worked. One afternoon, as Leo carefully arranged tiny pastries on a tray, he looked up at Sophia and said, "Sophia, Mom." The word was hesitant, almost a question itself. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. She shook her head gently. "No, Leo, I'm not your mom, but I could be someone who cares about you." He studied her for a long moment, then smiled, a small, real smile. That afternoon, they walked along the river after closing the bakery, talking in whispers, giggles, and gestures. The silence that had defined his world was slowly melting. Weeks passed. Javier noticed changes he had never imagined. Leo laughed openly, asked for his favorite foods, and even told small stories about his mother. Javier, for the first time in years, didn't feel the need to fix everything. He simply watched. He let himself be present, leaning on a bench as Leo and Sophia chased sticks and stones by the river. One evening, after a long day at the bakery, Sophia mentioned her sister, a teenage girl she cared for at home. She couldn't leave her entirely, but the Moreno household could offer more than she had. Javier listened carefully, his mind working through solutions, and finally said, "What if you work from here? You could be with Leo, help him grow, and still be there for your sister." Sophia blinked, surprised. She had expected a formal job offer, a rigid schedule, something that would pull her away from her life. But Javier was different. He was offering something she hadn't imagined: trust, flexibility, and a chosen family. "That could work," she said softly. It wasn't just Leo who was changing. Javier felt himself opening up in ways he hadn't thought possible. Money had solved almost everything in his life, but here it was useless. Sophia's gentle patience, her quiet courage, and the small, ordinary acts of kindness were teaching him to be present, to listen, to feel. One afternoon, Sophia suggested they bake a cake together, letting Leo pour the flour and crack the eggs. Javier joined in, awkward at first, but soon laughing at the mess. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of home, not a house full of staff and gadgets, but a home full of connection. You know, Javier said one evening, as Leo slept with a soft smile on his face, I've been thinking, I want to do something bigger with what we've learned, not just for Leo, but for kids who can't speak or connect, for parents who feel helpless. Sophia tilted her head. What do you mean? I want to start a foundation, he said, to help children with communication challenges, to give them more than therapy, more than gadgets, to give them love, patience, and understanding. Sophia smiled a quiet, satisfied smile. That sounds really good. The foundation grew, but so did the family they had built together. Leo called Sophia a mom, though he never stopped telling stories about his real mother. The house was no longer a silent fortress. It was filled with laughter, whispered secrets, and warm, ordinary moments. Breakfast at the kitchen counter, riverside walks, and evenings spent making pancakes in pajamas. Javier learned to be a father in a way he had never known. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, misread signals, and sometimes let his old habits slip. But he tried. He listened. He held Leo's hand without expecting words in return. He let Sophia lead, trusted her instincts, and discovered that love didn't need to be earned through money or achievement. It grew in small, patient gestures. One rainy afternoon, the three of them sat by the window, watching the river swell. Leo, now talking freely, leaned against Sophia. I love you, Mom, he said, and then, without a pause, turned to Javier. You're funny, Dad. Javier felt a lump in his throat. He laughed, wiping a tear from his eye. And you're brave, buddy. Sophia squeezed his hand. We're all learning together, she said softly. It was simple, really. Healing didn't come from grand gestures or expensive therapies. It came from showing up, from being patient, from connecting in ways that mattered, from croissants shared at a riverside bakery, from whispered invitations to play, from choosing each other every day. Leo flourished. He spoke, laughed, and cried. He remembered his mother, but he also embraced the family he had now, built from love rather than expectation. Javier grew into a father who could listen without solving, who could love without control. And Sophia, with her quiet courage, had not only helped the boy find his voice, but had helped the entire family find theirs. In the end, the river continued to flow, the bakery's oven glowed warm every afternoon, and the house, once silent, held the sound of connection. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for Leo, for Javier, and for Sophia, that was more than enough. Because sometimes the simplest acts, offering a napkin, playing a game, showing up, can change everything. And sometimes, family is not just who you're born to, but who chooses to be there when you need them most.